All right, welcome back to the final round here on Yahoo Finance. Time now for our call of the day. Today we are talking about Stifel's latest note on Starbucks, the firm upgrading the stock to buy, putting a $90 price target on shares. And essentially, Stifel is looking at Starbucks as a play on the reopening economy. And we've certainly seen, Starbucks' stock act quite well. I mean, kind of came out of a couple years long wilderness, we could say, there towards the end of Howard Schultz's tenure. Stock today up some 5%. If we look at the bottom, shares were in the mid 50s today, trading closer to $83 a share. And Dan Roberts, this is certainly a company that I think the way this recovery has started is it started with all the at-home trades, the big tech names will benefit. And now I think we've seen a lot of it move into, and I think Starbucks goes with the name like a Chipotle, where there's a lot of these consumer brands. Everyone loves these brands, and they're likely to be the first place people return to when they start venturing out in the world. And I kind of see that as the backbone of this call.
Well, not only will these be the first places that people return to, and by the way, Chipotle, fine, you can mention, I would also throw Dunkin' Donuts in there as a name that I believe we've seen bullishness on because of the drive-through format. But
that's regional bias for you, Dan.
Sure.
In the Northeast.
Sure. And look, this is a chain that people have already been frequenting during the pandemic because of the availability of drive-through lanes. And in fact, what stood out to me most in this note is the idea that even before things fully reopen, in 2021, Starbucks is going to benefit from pulling certain features forward and aggressively taking steps that I believe it would have taken already, but sooner and faster than it would have, to improve convenience. And we're really talking about the drive-through lane, and we're talking about curbside pickup mobile orders, which again, Starbucks was already praised for. I mean, call our former colleague, Nicole Sinclair, because Starbucks is a tech company, according to this note. And the only thing I'd say there, just anecdotally, I've sat in these Starbucks drive-through lanes quite a few times during the pandemic, especially in the early innings when, you weren't yet comfortable dining outdoors, if your state was allowing that. Of course, some people still not comfortable doing that, but certainly you'd at least be comfortable sitting in your car and going to the drive-through lane. And at least in Connecticut, at 2 different locations where we went, the line was insane. I mean, the line of cars was so long that it was out of the plaza where the Starbucks was and onto the main drag, almost like the highway. I mean, you're going to cause a pileup here. But point being, the demand is there. And Starbucks at many, many locations, I mean, some closed completely, but at many locations, they at least kept the drive-through lane going for the whole pandemic. And I like that this note is mentioning that these things are likely only going to increase. And well, what does that really mean? What does it look like? I imagine whatever few locations left that don't have a drive-through lane, trying to add a drive-through lane, improving mobile order, improving the speed of that, curbside pickup, all of that, which, if you really believe that we're entering this brave new world where even once you're allowed to go certain places, and even once we begin to reopen, some people won't be comfortable doing that, then of course these things are going to become more crucial than they've ever been. All that being said, it's not new news, right? We've known that Chipotle, Domino's, all these companies have received praise already for their mobile ordering and their tech. Remember when McDonald's acquired a whole tech display company just to improve its touchscreens at McDonald's locations? Now, the only other thing I'd mention, since we're talking about Starbucks in a bullish call, this is not mentioned in the note, but I would venture to say that the recent exposure of the fraud with Luckin Coffee in China was a boost to Starbucks, at least in terms of brand equity, because remember how that company, erroneously now we know, was compared to Starbucks. They said, oh, watch out, Starbucks. People said, here comes Luckin in China, and look how fast it's growing. Turns out they had to cook the books. So it isn't so easy to grow at the pace of opening new stores that Starbucks has been growing at overseas.
Yeah, Dan, that's interesting that you mentioned Luckin there, because they did quickly touch on China and they were bullish on that area for a Starbucks. And specifically, they were talking about their expansion opportunity over there. They mentioned that penetration in China remains low. The returns on their stores in China are robust. So with a focus there, they're actually bullish on that area for the company going forward. And I think that that's interesting when we talk about the fact that, hey, China was a little bit of a gray area, I think, for Starbucks if you look in the past at analyst notes more recently, just because of their ability to compete with some of the national chains there. So the fact that Stifel is bullish on China, I think, is definitely worth mentioning, and an interesting angle, at least now on the heels of some trouble by Luckin and also maybe some of the other national competitors in China easing just a little bit. But I also want to specifically mention what they talked about when it came to their loyalty program, because I think that what Starbucks has done with its loyalty program is definitely worth emphasizing here, and the success that they have had. And they're pulling forward to some of their changes with their loyalty program because of the disruption in a coronavirus. And they're allowing customers to earn additional points through various payment methods, which hasn't been the case in the past. So they're hoping that that boosts the loyalty program use here, at least in the short term. And talking about the importance of the loyalty program, 46% of Starbucks' U.S. sales last quarter came from just over 22 million active users of their loyalty program. So speaks to the strength of that and why that's so important for the company going forward.
And just thinking about the, here in New York, obviously you think, oh, there's just a Starbucks on every corner. But, to Dan's kind of anecdote there, the most crowded Starbucks I've ever been in was about an hour north of Dallas. The line, I think, might have been 18 cars long, spilling back out onto what's like the subhighway they have in Texas that's next to the interstate. So it's like, it was just a ridiculous thing. And you realize that that's really the opportunity for Starbucks. And I think where that company's growth is likely headed, even if the urban kind of core locations for them struggle in the years ahead.
And I will just add quickly, guys, the rise of the drive-in and the curbside pickup, i.e. not having to go inside the shop, is going to happen at the cost of those big, fancy, showy roasteries that, if you remember, just 2 years ago, Starbucks was so intent on opening. You're mentioning the urban ones. I went to the big roastery in Seattle. It was an incredible experience. That was 2 years ago. I mean, it was like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for adults with coffee. But in our new normal, I don't think you're going to see Starbucks open many more of those.
I think it was fortunate for them that about 6 months before the pandemic, they realized that many of those, I think they had a huge one down in meatpacking or something, that was probably misguided. As a part of the Starbucks overall.
Money pits. Yeah, money pits.
Yeah, vanity projects for folks who are only whatever Schultz's title is now, but not the CEO. I'll tell you that, not the CEO.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.